evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're gonna, as you can see in the title, we're gonna talk about pretty much one of the biggest movies of the year.
Spider-Man.
No,
No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
we can some other
I'll
time
shut the
if you
fuck
want,
up.
but yeah. Today we're gonna talk about the Batman. We've all been anticipating this film for a very long time, and we pretty much knew that when we get to watch it, it'll be great. And surprise, surprise, it is great. But there's quite a lot of things which I think are worth talking about in this film because I think it's quite special. And it's unique to not just for a comic book movie, but as a movie in general. So, yeah, we're gonna start with the pros, I think, because there's more to talk about there.
And it's more fun.
Yeah.
So,
just let me know something that stood out for you, mate.
all right. Christ, it's like someone saying, like, here's a bag of the best tasting sweets in the world. Choose one. Just choose one. Any one. Which one do you want? So I've done some prep work just because I watched this film like over a week ago now. Pete watched it more recently, so it's probably better and more fresher in his head.
Yeah.
Than
So
me.
little disclaimer: I watched it like far more recently. Like I watched it a few days ago, and that's the reason why it took us so long to post this video. It's my fault because it took me a while to see it, but yeah.
Yes. Oh, so I've just checked my notes. There's one moment that I cannot stop thinking about it. And it's not really a singular moment, it's multiple, but it's just the whole aura of the Batman in this film. The guys and the criminals, they're looking into the shadows. They hear the footsteps. I love it. I absolutely adored it. I thought, fuck, Batman is terrifying in this film.
Yeah.
Like, truly scary. And I loved it.
He's not just terrifying, but you know what? There was something which I thought about towards the beginning of the film. I was like, wait a second. I actually had to think about it. What is the difference between the Riddler and Batman? Like, they're equally terrifying. They're doing the same thing. And it actually took me a minute for it to click. I was like, oh, right, Batman doesn't kill people. And I was like, okay, that's the difference. But the fact that it made me think for a little while about what the difference is, because they're both terrifying vigilantes. The film did a good job in that respect. But yeah.
In fact, and I'm sure every single other person who's reviewed this film has said this, but the cast is very good. You know, there's not really a person who's out of place. There's not a person who's out of sync. And every oh god, Pete, you're getting me going here. I'm picking out 10 candies at once here. So from the color tone palette, I loved where it was kind of like blacks and oranges, and it was dark and gritty, and oh gosh, Colin Farrell, for fuck's sake, he's completely unrecognizable.
Yeah, I mean, partly because of makeup, of course, but also his voice is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody told you it was Colin Farrell, you obviously wouldn't be able to tell. Great performance, though, regardless. I think he did a really good job of portraying this. He's an up-and-coming gangster. He's already a part of the equation, and he's technically still pretty relevant and up top, but he's still not the boss yet. And he has these aspirations of being something greater, and his personality too. There's a playfulness to it. It teeters on this little edge between whether you take him seriously or whether he's a joke, just like in the comics. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm just remembering this scene where he's handcuffed and left by Gordon, and Batman is just he's just waddling around like, let me go. And he's just so funny. Yeah.
I also love the way he delivers the line in the car chase when it seems like Batman's car explodes, and he's like, "I get you, I get you, motherfucker!" He just he did a really good job.
Okay, so I think we should now start talking about scenes that we loved.
Yeah.
See if we can just go over that. Mm-hmm. I have a more of a niche one. I really like when I was watching the film. There were about 4 or 5 times that I got tingles, and I thought, damn, that's a good scene. It did happen to me about 4 or 5 times in the film. And I think one of my more nuanced favorite ones was when the Batman kind of first glides. He has his psycho-inflated mattress man puff raincoat that he just drops down and hits into a bus and then nearly dies. and it was all just stemming from this fantastic scene where he just clouts Gordon around the head, which was all kind of scripted.
Mhm.
But it was very good. I love that whole jump thing. I just thought it was perfect because he's not the Batman yet.
Yeah,
He is, but he's not. He's
he's
learning.
kind of learning, and he like the
Yeah.
best part is like he runs like it's genius the way this film is shot because as he runs towards the door, you can actually like it's shot so that you can see the opening, and instinctually based on all of the Batman stuff you've consumed so far, you're like, okay, he's gonna jump and fly out the window. Like it's shot in such a
Hmm.
manner where you can see it, but he stops and kind of he stops in
Yeah.
a terrified manner for a second before he does it, which is like a really nice subversion. So yeah,
Well, to add, I also really, really liked how because this film always attempts to ground itself in reality.
sure,
You actually see the Batman leave the room.
yeah,
You actually see the Batman hook himself up.
yeah,
Was it in Nolan's Batman
yeah.
specifically?
He
It's
kept
just
on
Batman's gone.
disappearing. Yeah,
Where's he gone? Where's he gone? This one, it was all about, okay, I got to time this right. Like, imagine if his cape got stuck. That would have been terrible
yeah.
on the door, as he was like, just trying to get that out. But it was great. Yeah. It's truly grounded. I don't know if you have ever seen a film that's superhero related that's so grounded. It's like Joker in this film.
Sure, yeah. I
It's kind of
mean,
hard.
they tried to. I mean, they did do it with the Dark Knight trilogy, but not to the extent of how it's done here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that you mentioned that he almost dies, after he does the his flight
Yeah.
and everything, I
Yeah.
think that just captures the essence of this movie. It's a very different take on Batman in the sense that what he is not the Batman yet until the end of the film. He is Bruce Wayne, the child that witnessed his parents die in front of him, a child that basically never got over his trauma. He didn't take the necessary steps to deal with it in a healthy manner. And it even says it in the film, his fear, his childlike fear, gets basically transferred into this alter ego of the Batman, full of rage and anger. Um, and he's basically, I don't know if you've noticed in the film, but he never succeeds in anything, basically, pretty much. I mean, he's always
Yes.
just stringed along by the Riddler every step of the way. He never breaks away from the mold until the very end. He just fits perfectly in the chess piece that the Riddler set out for him. And he's always out of control. He just has no control over the situations he finds himself in. And I think that's really great because by the end of the film, it feels so rewarding to see him,
Yeah.
to see him, shine the light in the darkness and become the Batman which helps people. Because ultimately, the point of the movie is that Batman isn't supposed to be the Punisher. He is supposed to be the light in the darkness, not the shadows. And I think that was done really well. But,
Yeah, I think it's important for people to get that plot,
yeah.
to understand what they're actually trying to do. I noticed as well, he doesn't actually even save any of the victims
Yes.
who the Riddler kind of puts up against. He really struggles in this film, to be fair.
Yeah.
And he even, I think you mentioned it, and I was like, oh shit, yeah. He even actually assists the Riddler in some sense of killing someone.
Well, yeah,
Not intentionally.
That's what's genius
perhaps,
about the
but
Riddler is that he actually succeeds in what he wants to do. He wants to kill and cleanse all of the remaining elements of corruption from the city and start anew. And he does just that. And part of his plan is to use Batman like his executioner, and it works. And I think
Yeah.
that's great because that's how Batman realizes that what he was until now was wrong. He was a symbol of fear, and that's wrong. And I like that. It was done really well. Snyder could have. It would have been nice if Snyder understood that too. But whatever.
there was something. I just was thinking of this. There's something that you said to me a long time ago that stuck in my mind, and then when I watched this film, I thought to myself, "This is exactly you're right." And it was this. It was, what would Batman actually be like in real life? He just puts on a cape. He's a demented fuckwit, and he just goes around beating up people.
Yeah. I mean,
This is probably what it would be like.
like this film really tackles everything, and that's the thing. It critiques Batman, but not in like this mean, like snide way. Like it still respects the property, but it's a critique, and then it fixes it as well in a sense, and brings it to where it should be. Because ultimately, what he is he's a billionaire's child. Sure, his parents died, but he's somebody who has the resources, the financial resources, and the time to just beat criminals and become like the judge, jury, and executioner of the city, which is wrong. And they even have that scene in the funeral where the mayor, the candidate for mayor, is like, "Why aren't you doing any work, like philanthropic work? You know, why aren't you helping anyone?
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway.
I'm going to change on to the topic of the car.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was actually the moment where the hairs stood up on my shoulders. It was just so beautiful. I think it was during the scene where the whole penguin money situation he was undergoing, and then the Batman is like, "I'm gonna fuck you up." He gets back, he gets into his Batmobile, which by the way is gorgeous. I love these muscle
The
cars.
best Batmobile of all time. I'm sorry, it's better than the Tumbler. It's awesome. Yeah,
But it's just that I can still I have it burnt into my retinas where that exhaust of that car just first fires up and the engine. It's like some turbine thing attached to the rear of the car.
but
It's
also
just
also the Penguin's reaction. He's like, "Fuck," and he just
yeah,
runs. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, and then obviously you get the whole chase scene,
which is, in my opinion, it's the best car chase I've ever seen in a film.
it's well shot,
amazing.
isn't it? It really is. It's so beautifully shot.
Well, that's one thing about this film that I noticed from the beginning and throughout the whole film. I just kept on being stunned. Every single scene in this film is gorgeous. There is no shot which is just there. There was no part where you can tell that the cinematographer was like, okay, I'll just put the camera here so you can see both the main actors talking, and that's that.
Yeah.
Like, there's always some artistry and something clever about the shot they choose, and that adds a lot to the feeling of the film, in my opinion. But yeah.
I also wanted to talk about how I felt as a viewer because I don't know if anyone else has talked about this, but I actually felt quite almost like a victim of Batman's while watching this. I felt kind of suppressed.
Yeah.
It's always dark, this film. It's never shot in daylight. So it's like you never get an escape from kind of like the nightlife of Gotham.
Yeah.
You feel like you're complicit in what's going on in a sense. Because it's just like
yeah. It's very immersive.
It is. It's very immersive, and you feel, like I said, just you feel somewhat not responsible for what's happening, but you just feel like you're involved.
You're a part of it.
In this. Yeah. So that was always edgy. Not edgy. It made me feel on edge. A lot.
Also, one thing which surprised me is that the humor in this film is really good, and there's a consistent amount of it, and there's really clever visual humor throughout, not just quips. Like, oh my god, there's too many to even think about. But there's like subtle commitments to like long jokes. Like towards the beginning of the film, when he goes to this club, there's these two twins, which are kind of funny. Like two twins, they're the bouncers, and he beats them up to get into the club. And then towards the middle of the film, he shows up again as Bruce Wayne, and you're expecting them to get their ass beat again, but you're like, okay, it's Bruce Wayne, so that's not going to happen. And then towards the end of the film, there's another part where it zooms in on him, and you're like, okay, they're gonna get another punch in the face, but it doesn't happen. Instead, he kind of sneaks by them, and I thought that was really funny. It played with audience expectation, and there's a lot of stuff like that throughout.
Yeah, that was quite humorous actually.
Some pretty good.
What else do you?
Some pretty good quips too. Like I actually laughed out loud in the part where he's in the police room, and he's talking about who's the guy with the mustache with the broken nose.
Right.
And Gordon says something like, "Oh, so does he moonlight as a henchman for the Penguin?" And Batman's like, "No, he moonlights as a cop." I thought that was pretty funny too.
I missed that line.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's so many subtle like little bits in it. There's the part where he first fights Catwoman, and Catwoman is going fucking crazy with acrobatic moves trying to take him down. And every once in a while, it zooms in on him with like a fist looking menacing, and it's like, this dude could fucking knock the shit out of you if he wanted to. You realize that, and they really play into that really well. But yeah,
can't say I actually hit the joke. The jokes hit for me, but that's maybe because I was again so fucking immersed and terrified in some sense because I was just like on the edge of my seat for the next scene and the next scene. I was just yeah. It really was like that for me. Okay, so perhaps you and I could discuss a little bit about the plot, Riddler.
Sure.
Obviously the big elephant in the room, which is Riddler.
Yeah.
And did he work for you?
Yeah, he worked. He was amazing. Not only was the performance great, but the character had so many levels to him and so much depth. And he just worked. You could believe it. You could buy into the character, and he was like really idiosyncratic and interesting. He was kind of supposed to be like a Zodiac Killer, but even more comedic. Because there's parts where he's really funny. Like remember the part where he says goodbye on the phone? Goodbye.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
I do remember. Yeah,
yeah. He's
he's a weirdo.
yeah, a really dope character. What do you think?
Again, that's pretty much the same. Apart from the fact that, as you and I have discussed, I had an incident in the theater where I really needed to go to the bathroom, and it was because I ordered an extra large Coke, by the way, which you should never do in a
Yep.
movie theater, because you pay the consequences an hour and 2 hours in. So the scene in, again, if this wasn't obvious, there's going to be spoilers in this. I mean, we need to disclose that now. But during the scene where, by the way, this is such a rip-off of Seven, I thought, where he hands himself in. That was my only gripe with the film. Anyway, we'll talk about that afterwards if you like. So the Riddler and Batman are like in the prison, and it's where he first breaks that character of being that soft and silent, kind of nuanced and person, and he starts shouting at Batman when he realizes that Batman is not on his team, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the moment I went out for a piss. And then when I came back, everything was blowing up. So I was like, what the
Oh.
fuck?
Okay.
And,
well,
so then
I can
yeah.
tell you what you missed if you want. You actually didn't miss that much. But okay, you did miss a little bit. Okay, so basically what happened is he realizes that Batman is not on his team and he has the reaction to it. And then they find out that he's basically put bombs on every single damn wall in the city. And he blows them up, and so the city floods, pretty much. The whole city fucking floods.
Yeah.
And not only that, he has like this group of like fans on social media, and he basically told them to like pick up a gun and start shooting people, and that's what happened. And that's
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really didn't miss too much then. Yeah. And then when I got my seat back, I sat down. There was the scene in the stadium. That was where I was at anyway. So that wasn't too much time, I don't think. Anyway.
Not really. It wasn't that much.
No.
The only thing you need to
Anyway,
know, which you could have inferred, is that he blew up the dam walls and now the city's flooded.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I you know what? Just to get it out of the way, I did say I did think to myself, isn't this a bit too inspired by Seven, where he hands himself in? That was all I.
That's
comments.
That's not really Seven's. It was Seven did not come up with the idea of the genius serial killer.
They did not
turning himself in. That's a trope.
I'm sure it's probably lived the test of time.
Old
before
as hell.
that,
That's a trope of a detective noir story. And guess what? Batman is. It's a detective.
The thing is,
noir
I'm not
story.
actually. Yeah. The thing is, I'm not actually upset about it because it actually added a lot for the character building between them.
The Joker did it in The Dark Knight too. It's a classic thing.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, I just want to say how amazing is that the Riddler actually, in his twisted mind, succeeded in everything. He got rid of the corrupt element and used Batman, and then he also, I mean, this is more metaphorical, but he blows up the dams as a sign of like, the city is dirty, it needs to be cleaned, and he washes it.
Yeah.
I mean, he succeeds in everything. Yeah.
To add on to symbolism, I also thought the moment where Batman cuts the wires and drops into the water, it's like he's being baptized.
Rebirth. I didn't even think of baptized. Yeah, it's like he's being baptized.
So it's So, and that's the moment he became the protector of the weak as he shines the torch. So that was beautiful. Again, tingles on the back of my shoulder. Not tingles, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of those moments,
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. But yeah, in terms of the Riddler, I think it's really cool that they also made him kind of believable and interesting in that he is ultimately, clearly has some sort of mental disability of some sort as well, or not a disability, but he has a form of autism, I would say.
I think he does.
Or a developmental disorder that may have been caused by the fact that he was an orphan in a program which had all the funding stolen from it. And I think I like that DC tackles these types of issues, and talks about these kinds of things. So yeah.
It definitely makes them distinct from Marvel because they just do these things that Marvel never does, right? So, I really enjoyed how the message that I think we already kind of covered this, but just to set it out again, I really liked how Batman, in one part, was trying to avenge all of the criminals, to have vengeance on these people, to be that. How would you put it? I think you can put it nicely.
I mean, he says it. He put it himself. He said at the beginning of the film, he said, "I am the shadow." He was like, "They think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows." And then the film
Yeah, yeah,
visually contrasts it by him holding a light in the shadows. Like, it just yeah, that's what it is.
yeah. So, and then again, you've got that, and then in addition, you've got the Riddler who's trying to rid the corruption out of the elite. So, it's almost like at two parts of the society that both are trying to deal with. In a lot of cases, Batman's dealing with the thugs on the ground, and the Riddler's trying to deal with the top. Maybe they've got different worldviews, but you can see the blurred lines, and I thought that was really clever.
It was also shown in his interaction with Catwoman when he starts getting all like ragey when he's like, "Well, you're a criminal too, you know. What did you do to get all this information
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all that?" And he starts getting up in her
absolutely.
face, and he gets a lot of wake up calls where he realizes how privileged he was through his life and how he really did not take the time to understand how the real world works, and it's cool, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah, the film is extremely deep. Damn, it's deep. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Um, where to transcend from here onwards too? I would raise you another point that I've thought about is just in terms of my other favorite scenes. I've, the club scenes were beautifully shot. They were just incredible.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
insides of the
absolutely.
club,
Yeah.
and I think maybe it's gone overlooked. The whole scene with Catwoman, she puts the lens
Mhm.
and she just walks through. I thought that was really well done, in spite of the fact that it could have been cringe. I felt
Not only
this
was it like
whole
it was incredibly well done, but also the way they captured the viewpoint of the district attorney.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
actually gave a
yeah,
really good performance because ultimately he's a scumbag who
yeah.
like corrupted the whole office for probably not even that much money. But at the same time, and this
Oh,
actor is
yeah.
really good at playing these types of characters. You almost feel bad for him because he's so pathetic.
Exactly. He's
Um,
almost a victim
yeah,
of
exactly.
this.
He's like probably like really suggestible, and he's just caught up in something which is bigger than him. And like his facial expressions and the way he plays it is really effective. I thought that was interesting too.
No, no,
Um,
no. The film student in me, even though I'm not technically a film student, I would look at that and say that what the director is doing is putting me in the shoes of exactly what Batman is. It's just this idea that, okay, sorry, not Batman. It's just putting us in the shoes as a culprit in this world who's doing exactly the equally as bad of things.
sure.
We're we're involved because you look at this person now like he's not corrupt, etc. Like you feel like, well, he still is.
Yeah,
It's that
you can just understand. Like, actually, that's
understanding.
one of the film's main points is that people can do mistakes, and that doesn't necessarily make them unequivocally evil and beyond redemption. Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne. You go through this
Oh yeah,
they go
there's
through
all
this
that too.
interesting arc where it's like at first you're like, oh, was he a scumbag too? And then it's like, I mean, sure, he wasn't the best person, but he wasn't evil. He made a mistake. He made choices, and then he had to live with the consequences. So, yeah.
And also on what was the guy's name again? From
Who?
who we just spoke of him, and who was the victim, and he was the one
The
that's
district attorney.
the
I forget.
district attorney.
I forget his name, but
The DA was, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I also like the follow-on scene with the funeral
yeah, yeah. Of course.
for forgotten who it was for. So terrible this. Anyway, doesn't matter, I suppose. So that scene in particular where the three riddles were asked, and it's the line. I mean, the line just got me as well.
Oh,
It
and sorry,
it was so
I'm
immersive.
sorry, but I just remembered something which I thought was so clever about the film is that in this scene, like one consistent thread besides the whole shadows aspect in the film is that Bruce is self-destructive. He's like a fuse that is burning wildly, but it seems like he's on a death pact, like he's on a suicide pact. He says that he doesn't care that he doesn't
Yeah,
as if he does not make a difference in this city, he does not care what happens to him. He'd rather be dead. And that there are several instances in the film where that's visually shown. And in the funeral scene, there's this part where he's screaming at the DA to tell the truth about who the rat is, even though there's a bomb on his neck and it's gonna blow up. And he doesn't evade the bomb. He just keeps on asking for who the rat is because it is more important to him to get the answer to solve the case than his life. And I thought that was really interesting. But yeah.
and there's the duality there. Can I try to be clever here? There's the duality there that he is willing to go to the very ends to be a symbol for hopefully in the future good. You could almost transcend that attitude towards the end. You could predict what he
but
would
I
be
think
like.
it goes. I think it's like on a visceral level in that the importance of his life does not track in his mind at all. In that he didn't even consider.
Yeah,
he didn't even.
That was very clear.
Yeah,
in that scene,
he didn't even consider it as anything to even take into consideration. He just was prying for the name of the rat so he could like do the case, and it blew up in his face. But like I thought that was dope. But
I agree with you. All I was going to add to that before you interrupted me, I must say, is the moment where he asks him, the last riddle, how much does it cost for your, whatever the word was, for you to look away, for you to be bought?
Blind eye. No.
What was it, 20 grand? I just thought of the way it was said was
like that's one other part where you're like, okay, this dude is kind of like an idiot. I can't be mad, Like, I almost feel badly, so pathetic. 10 grand, like, he said 10 grand.
But at the same time, like, it asks a really deep question, I feel like, and fuck, I hope I'm not trying to say something that's about me personally, but I think that society at large, a large proportion of people would probably do what he does, or what he had done. In certain circumstances, where, of course, no eye is looking, 20 grand to look the other way? Yeah, of course I fucking will.
I wouldn't, but...
I think a large amount of people. Therefore, I think
so?
I can say that.
You think so?
Absolutely. Now, you got to obviously have the context where you would most definitely, very unlikely to get in trouble in certain situations. Maybe that's up for debate. I'm happy to accept that and leave that there. But I just think that's a good question to ask people. It's like, would you be willing to take 20 grand to look the other way in this scenario? Mm-hmm. Most people are probably like at least thinking about it. Like maybe.
Yeah. Plus, like, you could tell that he was just confused and stupid because ultimately he did kind of want to do his job. Like, he was quite excited about the fact that he used the rat, which we find out is Falcone, to take down Maroni. Like, he wasn't completely... He didn't completely not care. He was just kind of a shallow, weak-willed person. But anyway, we're talking too much about him. But he just...
So that concludes the Riddler.
I think the actor just gave a good performance. I really love this actor, actually. But, yeah.
I've got to say, the last thing is I really liked how he was designed to look in this film, because he was not the comic book looking, top hat, looking funny and weird Riddler. He was a really terrifying and
you're talking about
almost like a jigsaw.
You're talking about Riddler now.
I thought all of this was just on the topic of Riddler.
I was talking about the district attorney, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was a departure from the Riddler, so that's why. Anyway,
he looks like
the Riddler.
He's
like Jigsaw in this film. That's what I just wanted to share.
He's a play on the Zodiac Killer, clearly.
And Jigsaw. He's all about traps, and he's all about.
I mean, the real life Zodiac Killer, because he used to leave like little puzzles to the press that were like ciphered and fuck with people and the police, and he never got caught. So yeah, it's a similar type of character. It's inspired by Seven too, clearly, but yeah, it's really well done. They actually managed to make him look be a terrifying presence in the film, because there's this aura to him where it looks like he can have like insane outbursts, but they're quelled by it's almost like he's purposefully willing himself to be calm, because he constantly breathes really heavily, but eventually he just blows up when he has an emotional reaction to something. And I think it works really well. Like in the very first scene when he kills the candidate for mayor, it kind of creeped me out. I don't know, just how he was in the shadows, and then the
reflection.
And not only that, he does like these weird, like I said, these outbursts of like violent sounds, like grunts and stuff like that, and it's very off-putting and it makes me uncomfortable. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, we that really set the tone for the film, right?
Yeah,
and then the fun was used.
Thumb stick.
Stick.
That was another good joke.
That was a funny one.
Yeah.
I think I just looked to my left and my right like, thumbstick. That's genius. That's disgusting, but genius.
Yeah, I said, a lot of good humor. I just thought on another scene, which was funny. There's remember the funeral scene, and the phone is calling, and nobody answers the phone for a really long time, and eventually I kind of had the thought, the Riddler's obviously sitting by the phone, breathing really heavily and dramatically, waiting for someone to answer. And sure enough, when they answer the phone, he's doing that. He's breathing ominously and heavily.
He's probably been doing it a while.
And I don't know. I thought that image was also kind of funny in a twisted way. But,
Yeah. Now, we have essentially covered a lot about the main characters and the plot, but we haven't talked much about the side cast, I'd say.
Yeah, we should talk about Catwoman 100%.
Catwoman, Alfred,
Gordon,
Falcone, Gordon.
everyone.
There's got to be some. Yeah. Should we restart? In fact. All right.
Okay.
So, kick it off with a discussion of Gordon, I suppose. Or...
Gordon, yeah. Really, as we're gonna come to see, they did every single character in this film perfectly. But Gordon is like, there's just like in the comics, Gordon is this honest cop who's surrounded by ones which are corrupt. He's like the only one who's honest. And therefore the Batman is like the only person he considers a kindred spirit and the only one he trusts. Like, that's one thing I love in the comics, is that the relationship between Gordon and Batman is special because they're the only people they trust in those situations. And I think that's like a really big deal. The only person you actually trust. And it leads to some funny situations sometimes, like the one where he punches him to get away. And
yes,
it was just really well done. Like how he's always got his back, but he also has to not show favoritism, as to not piss off the other cops. And it was a good dynamic. What do you think?
My only critique to Gordon, I don't know if you'd agree, is just I didn't quite feel like all the other stuff landed. However, Batman, being who he is at the moment, he is a dark vigilante pursuing vengeance, and he strikes fear in people. I always thought it was a bit strange that he didn't really have any judgment to that.
I think you're right. Like, it feels like Gordon would work better with the Batman at the end of this film than the one
exactly. Yes, at the end.
Yeah. And plus, like,
but maybe they just thought, Gordon, is it really worth our time? I don't know. But then again, that's a criticism.
I think one thing they could have tackled that with is if they added a few scenes. I mean, I understand. Maybe they did this and cut it out because the film is fucking massive.
It's so long.
But
that's no point.
But you don't even notice that it's that long, honestly. But
I did though.
They might have
because I needed to pee.
Yeah, okay. They might have added some scenes where there's tension between them, like where they have actual real arguments or conflicts or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they were there and got cut out, but I feel like that was definitely one thing that should not be cut out of the film. But it is what it is.
Okay, so I think I agree with your assessment to move on from Gordon, because he's, while significant, he's not the most significant character. I'd say Alfred, I was pleasantly surprised by his performance. It's always nice to have a British actor doing a British accent. I mean Pattinson didn't do a British accent. He was good. He was very good.
He's very good.
I thought he played this endearing person who really cared for Batman and Bruce Wayne in this film. And it is somewhat the old classic, but to an extent he built upon that because he's also kind of like worried a bit more so than maybe in Nolan's Batman. He can see the torment that Bruce Wayne's going through.
I think that came through in Nolan's Batman too, and specifically the Dark Knight.
It did, yeah. But it felt something a little more here because of, you could, like when Bruce Wayne was just obsessing over some of the particular riddles he was trying to solve. And again, while he's masked with face paint still and with the horrible hair from, it seemed like there was something more there that he was more afraid of for him. Like the way he looks and presented himself. Felt worse.
I mean, he's in a far worse mental state than the Dark Knight Batman, that's for sure. I think he was good. I feel like they didn't do much with him though. The performance was good, the character was good, but there was much less importance to him in this film than in the Dark Knight trilogy, I'd say. I feel like Alfred really shone in the Dark Knight trilogy, but here he's good. Yeah. He's good, but he's not necessarily special, in my opinion.
You can't replace Michael Caine, though. That's the thing. He's a legend.
Yeah, no, Alfred. I mean, Andy Serkis is still a great actor, but they also, I feel like, consciously chose to not do as much with the character. They might do in the latter films, though, so you never know.
I do think it's important, even though while I really do like the film, it's important to raise criticisms where you can, fairly.
Sure. Yeah.
When the scene occurs where the bomb goes off, it doesn't hit as hard for the viewer, I feel, because you don't care so much about him.
I really
Like,
didn't.
I still feel,
I mean, I got the importance of it, but it
yes,
didn't feel as strong as I would have felt if the Alfred from the Dark Knight got blown up.
yeah, oh
That would have been
Christ.
like horrible. While here
I
it's
feel like
like
I'm going back on what I said now, but I
what?
think you're more right than I was then. It definitely doesn't feel like the relationship is as strong as the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't a focus perhaps, but it's noticeable and it's sad. But maybe they'll fix it in the following films. So
Which I hope they make, by the way. I don't know if there's been any.
I'm sure they will. I think they will.
Oh, and then we need to get Joaquin Phoenix involved, and we need to do
I
something
think
right.
Walking Phoenix was a one-off.
Oh, so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
So sad. That would make so much money though. Gosh, they did it with Spider-Man when they put three of them in. Just put one of them in. That's a
Who
terrible
knows?
plan.
We might we could be surprised. We don't know what's going on
Yeah.
with DC. You know, this trend of making good movies, great movies, is new for DC. So we will see.
Very new, very recent.
Yeah, I mean, not
Yesterday.
yeah. I mean, not taking into account the Dark Knight trilogy, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
So
That-
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, moving
Zoe
forward.
Kravitz,
I think
let's talk about
yeah, Catwoman.
Selena
I was
Kyle.
gonna say yeah.
Catwoman. Okay. Go
Really,
for it.
really great character. I love the way they did her here. The most grounded and realistic take on Catwoman. They kept a little bit of the camp with the cats and her drinking milk, but not to the extent of the Halle Berry movie or Michelle Pfeiffer in the.
I was
original.
really hoping that they would explore that. I was hoping we'd get some more context and maybe try to see why the character's like this. You know, I thought maybe they would do that, but they didn't. Yeah, it was a bit campy.
But it was. I think it was fine. It was a fine line.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
It was fine.
but she's very grounded and a realistic character, and I like how she has her own aspirations and things she wants, and she isn't just tied to Batman necessarily. And I like how her journey mirrored the one of Batman, and their dads were also friends, and their dads were also of questionable moral fiber, and it worked really well. I thought her character was great. I would love to see more of her. I'd even like a standalone Catwoman film, to be honest. It could be really good. The only issue I had was not really with the performance or the character. I just felt like the romance between Batman and Catwoman was not organic at all. It kind of just felt like, well, these are the two main actors, and they're hot as fuck, you know, and they're like really big in Hollywood right now, so they should kiss, and like that's what happened there. They also they completely retconned. Like it seemed like Catwoman was in a relationship with Annika. That's what it seemed like, and they just completely retconned that. And they just I felt like that was not the best, but that's just my opinion.
Well,
yeah.
again, I feel like their relationship was an afterthought, and it felt rushed, and it wasn't earned. Their love for each other.
By the way, it's nothing to do with the performance. I think both characters have good actors have good chemistry and are perfect casting.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's important to clarify that
Yeah.
it was just mostly a writing issue or a whole broader picture issue.
I definitely think these two actors could do a phenomenal job in a romance between them as Catwoman and Batman. I just think the writing and the choice of how they approached it was not good enough in this film. That's just my opinion.
I have an idea, Pete.
Yeah.
Now, this is my typical, during the middle of the episode, I come up with an idea. So
Yeah, good.
my idea is this. Would you have agreed that they should have split this film into two parts?
No.
Ooh, he says no.
No.
I think yes. Should I go?
Actually, yes, probably. Go ahead. I might come around to the idea.
Yeah. I know it's not the best thing in the world, but it's mostly because of the reasons we've just spoke about the supporting cast and the romance. And kind of the ending for me. I feel like maybe a lot of things could have been better and hit harder if they had more time. That's that. I'll leave it.
I know what you're
Just see
talking about. In this film, they got to the emotional climax of a conflict between some characters in the same film as they introduced those characters, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
But for example, Falcone, I think it's fine that he died in this film, and I think he did a good job with what he was given, and he didn't necessarily need much more. But with Catwoman and Alfred and some of those examples, I feel like having more scenes to develop the emotional core of that conflict, and then added the conclusion to it in a second film would have been more rewarding. That's for sure. At the same time, I appreciate that DC is doing things in a starkly different way to Marvel, where they don't make these movies which are like a TV show, which lead into the next thing, and eventually they all connect, and it's fucking wild. Nothing wrong with that, but I like that DC is being different by making standalone movies and focusing on the craft of that.
Here.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, maybe the fact of commercially, I don't know if it's viable to split them in two.
Yeah.
It's a risk on this film in some sense. If it doesn't land well, the whole making of a second film.
But I must say, with the
timeline
it had, it achieved everything like so perfectly. They set up all the characters so well, like the way Penguin will be in the next movie, the way everybody they really built up these characters to become what they are in the comics, like so well. It's funny how towards the end of the film you had like these traditional comic scenes in it, like the conversation between Riddler and Batman. It turned into adversarial, which is how it is in the comics. And Penguin kind of becomes the boss now, and it's set everything up really well, which is cool.
If I may,
there is one issue I have with that, but I think we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Well, I suggest you say it now, and I need to try to remember this. I've got it in my notes. I've got two more ideas I want to put to you.
I want to leave it for cons, but I just have a few issues with their decision to put the Joker in at the end of the film. But,
okay, let's cover that in the cons.
Yeah.
I have two more ideas I need to go with you right now. One, do you think this should have been a rated 18 film? An R-rated film?
Honestly, no. I mean, I would have preferred if it was R-rated.
Me too.
But I don't feel like it necessarily would... I don't think it has lost much of anything by not being rated R. Because the film, the scenes which are supposed to be visceral and hard to look at, I thought were still quite impressive and had their desired effect even without blood or anything. Like the part where he puts the collar, where Riddler puts the collar around the DA's neck, I still thought that was pretty disturbing. I thought we were about to see a decapitation, but that's not what happened. And I feel like all of the scenes which can
I interrupt? Also, the rat cage, that was so graphic, and they didn't even need to show what would happen. We knew what was going to happen.
My issue with this is that I feel like the film. What rating does it have? What rating does the film?
It's a PG-13 rating.
Right. I already think the film, in my opinion, is far more mature than a PG-13 rating.
I don't know how they got that rating.
I already feel like the film is very dungy and neo-noir and for adults. And I don't understand how it managed to still stick to PG-13. I feel like to the place they went, they might as well would have added that R rating and added blood effects in too, because it's already, in my opinion, a very mature film.
Okay, and the other idea, so to speak, is just this, and then I'll promise we'll move on.
Yeah.
It's just in this world that we've been built in this new Batman film. Can you think of any other villain in the Batman universe that would work perfectly in this kind of universe?
Good question. Very good question.
And I thought of one straight away, but
I also thought of one, but you go ahead because it was your
Scarecrow.
idea.
Scarecrow would be.
Yeah. That's not who I thought of, but great choice. Scarecrow's a great. I want Cillian Murphy back as Scarecrow. He was like so good.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
he was so good.
Yeah.
There's so many good characters. This is why I love Batman, because they've got Bane, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze.
The Rogues Gallery is, I think, like that's what annoyed me so much up until this point about the cinematic universes. Like, DC has such an interesting universe. It's way more interesting than the Marvel universe. But somehow, like, how do you waste the source material like that? Thankfully, it seems to be having a comeback. So that's good.
Yeah.
I thought that what is his name? Red Hood. Would fit really well.
That's a unique one.
Sure. Although it
Yeah.
wouldn't have the same emotional impact without also having the relationship between Batman and Robin in it. You know, but
Hmm.
so maybe not viable unless they had the Batman and Robin thing. I actually think not in the second movie, but if they go like if they make a trilogy or like actually make it a franchise, if in Batman 3 you actually had the Batman and Robin thing where this Batman could actually kind of take care of a kid, that would be interesting. But
What if Willem Dafoe played Robin?
yeah, I would watch that right. I would pay for that right now. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. I suggest we move on to
yeah,
cons now for the
sure.
sake of the
The
film,
time, yeah.
the episode's length. Yeah. So, there are a few. To be fair, again, this film for me does land in many ways, but there are a few things that I'm not happy about, and I think
Always
we
flows.
really kind of we talked about the main one, which is again the relationship thing. Like, for me, that's the most central thing.
The
Like
most
that just
jarring one, yeah.
it bothered me a little bit. Not too
I
much,
felt like it didn't
but
belong
it
here.
bothered
Like
me.
I said, it felt like a thing where it's like these are the two main actors, so they should be in a relationship. And this is like a trope that should be in a worse movie. It shouldn't be in a movie this good, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Do you have anything on hand that you think is quite noteworthy in terms of cons? Because you were mentioning something about the Joker. I know you.
Yeah,
I'll let you
I
talk
have
about that.
like a very few issues, but yeah, it's the Catwoman thing, but also um they do this weird thing at the end of the film where they have like 4 or 5 endings. Like they have some scenes which are framed and have the music implemented like it's gonna be a dramatic ending and then roll credits. But the credits don't
Mm,
roll and they go to another ending. Like there's the ending where Batman is looking up at the sky
yeah,
and yeah. Then they go into the one where he talks with Catwoman and then they ride off into the sunset on their motorcycles. Then there's the Arkham one and like it felt really jarring to
yeah.
have 4 scenes back to back that all feel like endings. It felt like they couldn't make a choice over there.
I agree
You
with
know?
you.
Yeah.
It seemed to me they just said like, okay, guys, the film's nearly 3 hours, so just at this point, if we can't decide, I mean, no one's gonna care.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it
I
was.
didn't
Yeah.
like that cheesiness of the whole split road thing. I really
Me
didn't
neither.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it was not necessary.
It really was not necessary. Yeah.
I because everyone's seen the Fast and Furious gig and the memes that have propelled into the social media for that, and it's just
It's just yeah cheesy. And on top of that, I also think that it was really not necessary to hint towards the Joker in this
yep,
film. Like
yep,
it was Riddler's film as the villain. I mean, and there was no need for it. It would have actually been much cooler in the next film if the in Batman 2 if the ending scene with Riddler and Joker talking was the first scene of that movie. I actually think that would have been much better,
yeah.
and it would have set the stage for that movie as well. I think it was just unnecessary here. Although I will say that I think the performance of this Joker is very good, and I like their vision of him. So
Yep. Yeah, and the well, I think you covered it actually. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's fine. I think for me that's pretty much summarizes my position. I don't really think anything else was too bad with it. So,
yeah, me neither.
cool. So, what would you be prepared in good old fashioned as we hate to do, stick a label on it, rate it out of 10, rated A to F. Do you want to do it? Can you do it actually?
I don't think I can. Although
I can, I think. I think.
I kind of want to give it an A plus personally because these are minor gripes to me. But yeah,
I was thinking of giving it like a B plus, but
what?
that because I thought maybe, well, look, it doesn't deserve an A because it's not split into two parts and no Scarecrow and Joker's in it, which it doesn't make sense.
You give it an A then, not a B plus.
But my analysis, as you can see, was perfect. I mean, come on. Yeah,
No, I think. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
it's like A minus B plus. That's
I think
for me personally.
despite these issues, I feel like they're just minor gripes. I would still give it an A plus. It was an incredible experience, honestly.
And also, I had to pee, so that really ruined it for me. Like, it really, you can't imagine.
Yeah,
You can't imagine when you're sitting there and you're like, you really love the film, you love what's happening, and then you've got to go, you have to go. So,
it was a really unique movie. Like, there is no other
yeah.
movie that looks like it and that is like it. It had its own like style, and it felt like it could have only been made by this director. It feels like it came out of somebody's brain. It didn't come out of a committee, or it wasn't somebody like trying different stuff out based on what they've seen. It felt like somebody had a unique idea and then executed it, which is awesome. Yeah.
And
Oh, sorry. I have one more comment.
Yep.
It actually kind of annoyed me at the beginning. I thought it was kind of, whilst the scene was really well done and awesome, the scene where he at the beginning where he comes out of the shadows and he beats up the goons. Remember? Like
yeah.
the way it was executed was awesome. I just felt it was kind of dumb how we had no context into who these goons are. They had Joker makeup for no reason because the Joker is not an entity in this world yet. And it felt like it was just a scene to show Batman beat some people up and look cool. And I feel like it would have been nicer if it had a little bit more context. But that's about it.
Like, do you know what they could have done at the end? What if those guys were responsible for the woman who was in the chairlift to the helicopter, and you just showed that at the end or something?
For the what? Sorry,
You remember at the end where he puts his hand on the hand of the woman who's being raised up into the helicopter?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Instead of her being involved in the whole accident that happened.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. Something could have been done to close those loops, but
yeah.
Yep. So I think that concludes.
That concludes it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much concluded.